This is the Daily Divide, a show where we pick a story from each day and give you my take. 7 days, 7 divides, let's get into it. On Monday, Te Pāti Māori has suspended Te Tokoro MP Marimino kapa-kingi following weeks of internal turmoil and public infighting. The party's National Council passed motion citing serious breaches of its constitution, while kapa-kingi has hit back, calling the moves illegitimate and dysfunctional. Her son and former Vice President Uru kapa-kingi has also engaged in legal counsel over what he calls false kōrero from party leaders. So I was originally going to make a video on this kerfuffle, this crisis, this disaster emerging in the party. But every time I went to speak about it or think about it or turn the camera on to think about what I'm going to say on a video, I always hit a dead end. I always hit a brick wall. I don't really know what to say other than what has already been presented. You know, you've got an MP in the party, in TPM, in Te Pāti Māori, that has overspent their budget. Party hierarchy has then, or the Speaker of the House has called out the overspend on the budget. The party has dealt with it, and then you have the MP's son getting a bit, what seems to me, annoyed, and then airing out dirty laundry on the party as a hit back. I can't find the word, and that's that. And then now you're getting the party to suspend the Te Tokoro MP Marimino kapa-kingi. I think I butchered that name, so I apologize. After those discussions, and that's it. You know, there is a lot of discussion about whether or not Uru kapa-kingi's disagreement with the party apparatus is because of the suspension, or is it separate, or is it is dirty laundry that he's now willing to air out because of this? And I think it is a bit of both on that. I do believe him. That is true, and I've said that in another video a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And now the fact that it's gotten to the point that, I believe it's Uru kapa-kingi, that he is willing to file a lawsuit against the party, it's getting a bit, it's getting over the top. So and this coming out that the MP, the Te Tokoro MP is about to be, or has been suspended on Monday. I had to say something, you know, I had to add something to it. But again, I didn't really know what to say other than I really wanted to highlight the annoyance or the frustration that I'm developing on. There are some political commentators on the left specifically that seem to be really willing to criticize the Labour Party on their criticism, or Chris Hipkins' criticism on Te Pāti Māori. And it's really weird to me that there are some commentators that are willing to hold up a minor party who has only 6 seats and have them as this holy grail, is you can't criticize them, full stop. You know, any criticism, it is against the betterment. And if you're on the left, if it's any criticism, it's against the betterment of getting rid of this government, which is absurd. Because the one party, and I've said this before, the one party that I believe will bring down any campaign to make this one-term government is Te Pāti Māori. So it is really frustrated me. And then I've aired that criticism went on Taka Te Where's racist comments. And so it's been a consistent thing. And I think people need to get out of this idea. And it's not even a two-way thing. You know, they're willing to let a party like TPM criticize Labour, but then when the party is deserving of criticism, they're not allowed because, I don't know, they're a small bean and they need help. I'm not too sure on that. On the extension on, do I think that the party is ready to be in coalition with the Labour Party? No, absolutely not. And I don't think they will anytime soon. Te Pāti Māori can work with the Labour Party. It can happen, and it's happened. The Te Pāti Māori, the only party that Te Pāti Māori worked with was the National Party. They've never worked with the Labour Party for technically good reasons in the noughties. So it can happen. It's just at the moment or even next year, it just won't. I would rather see them be, if they are going to be in any association with a government, a front bench, would be as a confidence supply role. I think that you've seen this eagerness to use publicity from the party any turn, and that's what Ordini Kaipara, and I never really made a segment because, again, it's just worthless. There was other things to talk about, so I just never mentioned it. But their Ordini Kaipara speech was a good example of that. You know, Hamada Maifiti Clark was an actual good example of using publicity to shun the treaty's principles bill. It is absolutely important, and that haka, and I'll defend it to the hilt, on that was actually a righteous use of civil disobedience. And the fact that they got suspended for 7, I will back them on that, absolutely. That haka on Orini Kaipara's maiden speech was really weird. I mean, I on that, I don't really know if they devised it or if it just came out of nowhere. I don't know. But the fact that she took way too long to make that speech was, one, arrogant, and it doesn't come off well in the general New Zealand public. This is the problem that I have with the party. They don't seem to really recognise, and they're not exactly centre of the world, right? They're not. And again, I'm not Māori, so I'm not gonna. I don't want to comment too much on Māoridom, but they're not really overcompensing all of Māoridom. Everybody has different opinions, and this whole, I don't really want to call it a civil war. It's a bit absurd. Debacle is an example of that. People have different opinions. Māori people have different opinions. It's normal. So it did come off as really arrogant when that came off. And when I watched it, I went, yeah, that's not the one, mate. It's not really the same. And it was so obvious that they were trying to get another, Time magazine front page cover. Like, they needed it. They needed that attention. And sometimes it can work in your favor. But other times, when you're doing it in general procedure that just doesn't make any sense, you're just looking like an absolute totspot. I've got nothing else to say, really, other than if they do want to be a part of government, they really need to sort this shit out, and they really need to realign that rhetoric into not being like Labour. Of course not. This is fine, but stuff like colonial noose, stuff that happened like in the last term, you don't come across as not parliamentary, governmental. That's not a word. You don't come across as a party that is willing to be a part of decision making. You just seem like you're there to make a ruckus. And that's not really that productive. On Tuesday, the Council of Trade Unions is calling out the government for removing worker voices from WorkSafe's board. Minister Brook van Velden has appointed 3 new members, all with management and or industry backgrounds, but none representing employees. The CTU says it's a worrying shift that undermines WorkSafe's credibility, while Van Velden insists the new board still brings strong worker advocacy experience. This is another example of the government being anti-worker. The fact that they're not willing to put a worker or workers on a board that helps prevent any corporate malfeasance or business malfeasance against their employees, against their workers, is a bit weird. It's not weird. It's malicious. They don't want to have you guys, to have you people in positions where they have an influence, whether they can help it or not. They want to divide that gap. They want to further that gap between a property owner or business owner and the everyday working Kiwi. Further and further. Any interchange. And that's why they despise unions. They despise the fact that workers have a ability to centralize their negotiation power. And that more specifically, that goes for the public service, because that's mainly the only place in this country that has good union representation. Separate, centralize public negotiation to better outlay that to their to the employers. I mean, the CTU sees this as a worrying shift. I think it's outrageous. I mean, there's nothing really more to say on that other than it's just an anti-Kiwi government doing anti-Kiwi things, and there's nothing really else to say on that. And on Wednesday, Labour's pitching a bold combo, a 28% capital gains tax on property profits excluding the family home to fund 3 GP visits a year for every Kiwi. Critics say it's a tax on business and questions whether the stretched health workforce can cope. Supporters argue it's a fair way to ease pressure on families and strengthen primary care. But with GPs already 500 short nationwide, many wonder if the system can deliver what the policy promises. You know, I already had my initial thoughts, and if you want to know my initial thoughts on the 2 new policies or the interchangeable policies that were announced by the Labour government, the Labour opposition last week, you can watch that up there. I'll if I can remember, I'll plop it up there. But I have had time to stew, and even then, I said I'm not happy with it, but I know it's a good step in a right direction, right? And so I'm gonna dedicate two segments on this. Normally, I wouldn't on my further thoughts on the capital gains tax. I think it's very, very, very clear that this narrow capital gains tax is to separate criticism is a tactical decision to separate criticism from any National Party attacks on a comprehensive CGT. The fact that it will tax everything. And even though that's already an absurd attack, I think that does give the party a bit of leeway to show that the National Party are complete and utter liars. You know, the Labour Party has actually done really well in pushing the rhetorical narrative against tax cuts. And then there's an opinion article, a really good New Zealand Herald opinion article on that in a couple of segments later that I wanted to cover to better highlight that really that kind of in hindsight actually revealed some interesting tidbits, so I'll leave it to then. What this is, again, it's a step in the right direction because this can be expanded, and you know the Labour Party won't admit that because it is that would be fodder to the National Party, but it is another door that is ready to be opened in extra revenue. It's not much, but again, like people say, like economists say, that the revenue can go up over time. And again, it can be brought in the next few terms. That can happen. It's not a done deal. But I wanted to highlight on this, my last highlight on this segment was the fact that the disappointing amount of doctor's visits or GP visits is 3. It's not a lot. But I think the main thing that I don't remember if I did, but I don't think I highlighted it in my first impression video of the policy was that it can be expanded. Like these 2 policies can be expanded in conjunction. The Medicard, I think, is a clear statement on a pathway to make GP visits a universal free thing. And I want to highlight the importance of that. It is much more difficult for a national government or a bunch of economic cannibals, specifically the actor nationals, to gut a universal thing. And I mean, they're doing a good job of it with our health system, but it is much more difficult to curb it when you have that in place, when you have a universal free system in place anyway, than it is if it was limited, if it was means tested. It's much more easier to get rid of an means tested policy like what you're seeing with the benefits system. They're sanctioning with much more ease than they are with the education system and the health system, 2 universal systems. On Thursday, history teachers are blasting the government's plan to dilute New Zealand's history curriculum, swapping focus on Māori and local stories for global topics like ancient Egypt and the French Revolution. They say the draft is overcrowded, shallow, and developmentally inappropriate, warning it will overwhelm students and teachers while erasing the progress made in teaching Aotearoa's own past. You know, it's really funny that I am actually really eager to give credit where credit's due to this government that I despise, because I think it's important in an intellectual debate. That's a bit wanky, isn't it? Just in discussion and in debate, and when thinking about policy that you might not like or people that you don't like, to just think outside the box. And I didn't praise, but I gave some level of credence that they are making a plan when it comes to NCA. Is it throwing the baby out of the bathwater? Yeah, but it's a plan, and sure, whatever. I mean, that's not really praise, but it's the least that they can get, I guess. And then you had this, and then what came across when it came to the larger curriculum beyond just the getting rid of NCA was the fact that what has been revealed and what over the last few weeks was that there is this hatred or this unwillingness for the Ministry of Education, specifically Eric Stanford, to talk to New Zealand educators on any curriculum development, or what's even more malfeasant, the fact that they were unwilling to, or that they were willing to talk to them demanding them that they sign NDAs, and then completely pivoting from any recommendation that those educators made to the government, to them pivoting to Australian contractors, and then them, Australians, writing up our curriculum for us. And then as such, you get this bland, cookie cutter BS as you would expect from an Australian. It's really hard for me to say that that party doesn't like this country. I mean, when you go out of your way to not only completely ignore any educator and completely bypass willingly and openly. I mean, they did do it, and they have done it openly, but more specifically, instead of just courting any recommendation, just full on blowing past them, they made them sign NDAs. And then instead of just using any of the recommendations, went past them to Australian contractors, allegedly, and then used the exact same New Zealand educators as endorsements for their changes. I mean, that's dirty. I'm trying not to say it, and I've already said it. How can you say that that party doesn't like the country, that like this country? I mean, they were unwilling to listen to any of us, to any talk. They were willing to bring in foreign investment. Anything outside this country, they love. Anything inside this country, they bloody despise. And then you got a so-called nationalist sitting with them saying that they love this country. I mean, it puts a lot of things into doubt, doesn't it? And on Friday, the Waitangi Tribunal has ruled that New Zealand citizenship laws breach Te Tiriti o Waitangi, saying they unfairly deny citizenship to overseas-born Māori children of parents not born in Aotearoa. The tribunal says the law prioritises birth over whakapapa and should be changed to recognise Māori descent across generations. The government, however, has no plans to act despite growing pressures from Māori leaders and public figures like Keisha Castle-Hughes, who call the rule outdated and unjust. This is something that has really weirded me out, and I've tried to just shimmy around and just ignore it because there's no point on even talking about it. It's really weird, the fact that the Green Party are willing to put a lot of capital and put a lot of attention onto something like this. I mean, sure, if you want to think about redoing our citizenship laws, sure, absolutely, I'm for that. You make that for everybody. I mean, if you're focusing on just one group of people, you're going to get a hierarchy. It's just, I don't know, it's just a bit weird to me. I'm all for Māori wards. I'm all for Māori electorates. I'm all for, hopefully there's a time where we don't need them. And I think it is hypothetically temporary, but the moment we do, there is a need for them. And that is because of systemic injustices. This isn't that. Even then, it's just such a waste of time. It is so pointless. Why would you highlight something that could... I mean, this is something that can add to the argument for David Seymour and his ilk. And it's not even... It's completely pointless. I mean, the Labour government tore itself apart because of racist accusations, because iwi had a chair on would have a voice in the Three Waters allocation board, and even I mean that was fine, but even that brought and there was an economic reason for that, but even that brought criticism, like, well, way more than criticism, racist badgering. But you're doing this, it's just... And on Saturday, Labour's taking another swing at a capital gains tax, this time targeting property and commercial real estate, but sparing family homes, farms, and inheritances. It's a bold move for a party once burned by a mere mention of a CGT. Hipkins is betting the political mood has shifted, that Kiwis are ready to tax property profits, especially after National's landlord tax cuts. But critics say it's a Trojan horse for broader taxes and accuse Labour of shutting out its own members. So this is a political... this was a opinion article written on the New Zealand Herald, and it did make me think about why the Labour Party chose to do a more narrow, specifically the Labour hierarchy chose such a narrow policy. And it is, in my opinion, and what it does seem like, was that it was to bring in better votes and defend them from any rhetorical attack that the National Party could lever, or by extension, I guess, the ACT Party and whatever Marxist accusations that the New Zealand First lever against the Labour Party, and could potentially angle as to give the Labour Party, which already has a rhetorical advantage tax-wise going into the election year, much what it seems like much better advantage than any other term. And this might extend that advantage a bit further to just give that to just reveal, not reveal, to give a rhetorical advantage accusing National Party of liars, which they are. They're always liars, and they will twist anything. I think it's initially, and I already said this. I think I said this in the last segment, but I just want to reinforce it. I think it is a step into the door for this country to actually lever in, and it could... Is it a Trojan horse for more taxes? I hope so. They're not going to admit it because it will lose any advantage that I think the decision that they made on this, which was a purely tactical decision. I don't think it was an economical decision. I just think that they chose to do a narrow to have that rhetorical advantage against the National Party. It is, as I said, with the Metacard planned, in my opinion, could be an expanding policy where they broaden things further as time goes by. In the article, it really made me think as to who leaked the policy announcement. And there seems to be a lot of kerfuffle, a lot of badgering around on... There was an agreement from the membership base to look at a comprehensive capital gains tax, and there could be potentially someone in the party or people in the party that don't like the decision that Chris Hipkins went with, which was a much more narrower system than to what the party originally wanted. That's where that leak could have come from. I didn't really think, and in hindsight, it was completely obvious, because it couldn't have been the fact that there was someone there that completely abhorred a capital gains tax. That'd be just egregious. And even further, it couldn't have been someone in a shadow cabinet that wanted the leadership. I think that the Chris Hipkins and the wider leadership has done a really good job on flattening any leadership challenges. For better or for worse, they've done a good job on that, on consolidating themselves behind Chris Hipkins for next year. So it couldn't have been that. So it is really obvious now that it was that either was someone or a group of people that are not happy. And I really hope that it's not going to it won't tear the party apart. It won't create any struggle. Do I think that they should have went full into it? I would have, but I completely get why they didn't. I think there is an understanding that maybe the country doesn't quite get what a capital gains tax is, and that maybe again giving that lead with the Labour Party, rhetorical lead against the National Party, calling them liars, and well, I mean, the Labour Party won't call them liars, but it's self-evident that they are. It gives them a bit of an advantage. Again, I probably won't vote for them, but it's food for thought as to why they made that decision. Just to finish off this video, and if you've watched this long, thank you. I'm going to lever a question to you guys, for the ones watching, and I really want to know what do you guys think on expanding our parliament by another 40, 50 MPs? And what do you guys think on extending terms to 4 years? If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay up to date with the weekly breakdown, the daily divide, and other bonus content.